painting, baby, yeah! So by now you should have done your thumbnails and thought about color placement and picked which rough layout you're going to use as a starting point. Feel free to share any thumbnail sketches you've done in the class gallery. I'd love to see them. So we're ready to start painting. This kind of painting, especially the detailed ones, can take a very long time. So for the purposes of this class, I'm going to use 6 blocks of Arches paper, and I'm going to use my motifs quite big because I just want to show the basic idea and the process rather than hours and hours and hours of detailed painting. Before we start painting, I'm just going to explain how I'm going to use the blocks as a half drop repeat. So I'm using 6 watercolor blocks. So if I draw my 6 blocks here, that will form 1 block in my painting. Now when it comes to doing the repeat, the top and bottom will repeat underneath, straight down, like this. So that's easy. Whatever comes off this top here needs to join on there. Okay, so anything that's up here will join on here. So that's really simple. When it comes to doing the half drop, this block will be repeated to the side and halfway up and halfway down. So if I make my 6 blocks like that and like that, then this block edge will be repeated here, okay? And this block edge will be repeated here. So although I usually just do a color thumbnail and then launch straight into painting, for this painting I have actually done a little light sketching just to try and get the placement of the motifs right. So when it comes to do the painting, this block will join on to this block like that, and this block edge joins onto this edge. It'll be easier to see what's happening once I've started doing the painting. I'm going to start by painting the gibbons. Because this is going to be a pattern, I purposefully want to paint these gibbons quite flat. So I'm not too worried about depth and accuracy. Just want to get the basic shape in. As always with watercolor, I want to use as few brush strokes as I can. When you're doing a painting like this, it's always a good idea to start with something easy and work your way towards the harder things as you get more warmed up. There we go, that's our first gibbon. This is the next one. Have his arm hanging down. The next one I'm going to have swinging. It's got a really long arm coming down like that, leg disappearing up there, an arm reaching down like that. I'm putting quite a lot of pigment on because I want these to be bold. Add a bit of depth to that one, and I want to maximize the watercolor effects that I can get by adding little droplets of water, especially around the faces. I had toyed with the idea of just drawing these as line drawings, but I think for uniformity of the pattern, I've decided I'll just paint them. If you do sketch, you want to make your pencil lines as light as possible so that they don't show through on the painting. Okay, now this up over here is going to join onto here, like that. So I just want to make sure I've got his hand in the right place, like that. And those are my gibbons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm now going to put the first layer of pandas in. So I'm going to paint a base layer for my pandas, just in very light grey. Let that dry, and then I'm going to later do the darks of the legs and ears and nose. So this is just to get the basic shape in. This has got a bit too dark, so I'm just lifting out some of that. So now is where I want to come and have a lot of fun painting the big pink flowers. I want to make the most of the watercolor properties and have lots of blooms and pretty things happening, and I want to paint quite freely. I just want to have fun with it. If you watched my other class on watercolor, you'll know that timing is a crucial part of watercolor painting, and knowing how wet your paint is at all times so that you can control the blends and how the paint mixes on the page. Just gonna stop there and let that do its magic. And while that's happening, I'm going to come over here and do this one. Now, this panel in the half drop will join with this one. So I'm going to bring everything over here. That will go down there. That will go up there. And now I'm going to paint this flower to come across both of these panels. The joy of this kind of painting is that if I mess up one of the panels, all I do is remove that sheet and then try again. So it takes the risk. It really reduces the risk element in painting, and it means you can afford to be more adventurous with your paint. There's some nice things happening here, and it's starting to dry. So before that gets too dry, I just want to maybe put a bit more definition into that one. Let's see. I'll just do a bit of that. I want this petal to be clean, so I'm going to pick up this like that. Let me take a smaller brush, and I'm going to take a tiny bit of brown and come in here. It's important to get enough contrast into your watercolor. It's very easy for everything to sit in the mid-range, and that is not what you want. Well, it's really easy for things to sit in the mid-range, so it's always good to be conscious of adding darks. I want to be very careful of not overworking what I'm doing. It's so easy to overwork a watercolor. So I'm going to stop there with that one. This one is getting dry, and I think it's ready for me to add a few darks. Now the darkest part is in the center. So I'm going to go right in here. The next flower I'm going to do is this one. I'm going to just loosely paint in these petals. It's nice to leave a bit of the white paper showing through. It adds a highlight. It gives a nice quality to your painting. I'm using the paint very wet here, and it's going to take quite a long time to dry. That's okay. Now I'm going to do this flower. Now I'm going to put it back to how it was when I started it. So this one is going to come down here, and this one is going to go up there. I just find it's easier to reorient myself back to this as a starting point. And now I want to paint this flower here, and I know that anything at the top is going to repeat at the bottom. So I'm going to just take that and bring it down. Take that and bring it down. Take that and bring it down. And now I can very easily paint this flower across this divide. So I'm going to pull from the center and keep it really loose. For this one I might load the center with a lot of pigment and then pull it up, which could work really nicely. Something like that. Let it do its beautiful thing. This one needs to be really light. Gonna load that center even more. And this is where you don't control every single aspect of your painting in order to get that watercolor magic happening. And you know, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work, and that's okay. This one is very rapidly getting dry. I'm going to just put a bit more moisture in there. Going to load the middle. This one, just load up the middle a bit more. This one's pretty much dry. You might be able to, no, that one's dry. I want another flower here. So put this one in. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to load the middle like that, and then I'm going to pull. See what happens. That's quite a fun technique. Really let the paint do what it wants to do. Like that. That's a nice one. See if I can get a bit more magic happening here. And maybe a little bit more magic happening here. It's fun once you start to relax and just enjoy the process. Gonna pop a bit of brown in. So it's good to do what's called all over painting, which is to be consistent across the entire spread that you're working on. Don't work on one corner and forget about the rest. Although sometimes when I'm doing a painting that I'm just doing intuitively and building up, I actually do just do that. But if you're working on something like this, it can be good to have an all-over treatment. Okay, now I'm going to join this back to here. So this one is coming down there. This one is going back there. And I want to just pull the stem across to join like that. So now I'm going to paint in a few of the branches that the monkeys are sitting on and hanging from, and I'm going to use my brown mixed with a little bit of my lighter brown. So okay, and now I'm going to put in loosely the things the pandas are sitting on. I want to keep this quite loose and not too stressful. So the first one is here. This one is cut in half, so I'm going to just swap them over. That's it, and I don't want to get confused, so I'm going to swap all of them over. Like that. This panda here is sitting in a tree. This little gibbon needs a branch to sit on. This might turn out to be the weirdest painting ever, but that's okay. It's just fun to try new things and follow your curiosity, because you never know where one thing might take you to something else, and it really doesn't matter if a painting doesn't work. You can just do another one. And now I'm going to put the darks of the pandas in. The next one is here, and he is looking up. I've actually combined two different images for this one, so it's going to be a little bit tricky. Anyway, give it a go. I love doing this with watercolor, just letting the paint be free and move around. It's really satisfying. And it's quite nice to actually not be completely in control of every single aspect. A little bit of magic can happen when you relinquish some of the control. That's fine. Some nice things happening here. Okay. Just deepen out some of these blacks. We want to try and establish a continuity of tone across the whole of the painting. So if I've got blacks, then I want them to be a similar darkness in the different areas of the painting. So now is the fun part, which is painting the leaves. And for this part, I just want to paint quite freely and loosely and enjoy the painting process. This is my color swatch, and I just want to mix up those colors again. So 11 is this one. 44 is yellow ochre. That's quite a strong pigment. And 54 is this olive green. And that's a bit of a sludgy green. I want my leaves to be quite similar in color to my gibbons. I'm going to swap the position of the blocks just because that will be easier. In my mind, this format is the starting point, and I know that when I swap them over, this has to go there and that has to go there. So now it's just a case of adding leaves and blossoms and making it into a fun and playful design. So I'm going to start with a few little blossoms. My colours have gone a little bit muddy and my water's muddy, so I'm going to quickly wash my water out. So I've got clean water and clean brushes, and I'm going to start by just painting in some light, happy little blossoms into the gaps. These can be quite loose and abstract, and just enjoying the paint quality. With water, I always have a dirty jar and a clean jar, and that helps me keep my colours nice and pure. Now this one will join there, and there's a space there, so I think I might just put leaves here for now. So let's do some leaves. Leaves are lovely to paint. They can be really therapeutic, just keeping them simple, especially with watercolor. I'm going to add a bit of dark to some places here, get some flow. I'm being a little bit conscious of not painting over the cracks if I can help it. It just makes for less Photoshop work at the end, but that shouldn't be a compositional factor. That's not the most beautiful thing I've ever done, but that's okay. I'm just going to take this one out. And I'm going to put some leaves in here. Putting some little blossoms in to fill some of the gaps. And also where I've ended branches and things, sometimes it's useful to hide that with some flowers. Okay, now this is going to connect to this. Like that. And this connects to that. So I can check for gaps, and this here is waiting for something, and I want to introduce, I've got a lot of this angle going on with my branches, so I want to now start bringing some branches down. Got some lovely watercolor values happening there. If you watched my other watercolor class, you'll know what I mean when I talk about timing, being critical with watercolor painting. There's a bit of a gap here, and I think having this leaf behind his head worked quite well. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Okay, I'm going to swap my panels around one more time and just check for any other gaps. So that will come down again, and that will go up there. And then I think this here could do with a leaf or two. I'm going to swap them over again. And I'm just going to see if there's anything else I need to paint. This over here feels unfinished and not well painted, so I'm going to see if I can do anything to improve it. I think the addition of a few leaves might be helpful. This over here wants a little bit of connecting up. At this stage in the painting, well, actually quite a few stages ago, I stopped. I just started responding to what was on the page rather than any preconceived idea that I had in my head. If you drop water into the paint, you get this sort of effect with a nice dark edge when it dries. And if you lift out the water, you can lighten it slightly. Then it's just this flower which joins that flower. And last little bit. There's one more thing that I need to do, and that is put the faces on the little gibbons. So I'm just doing a kind of indication of a face. I'm not actually attempting to do a real naturalistic face. So here we have our basic painting. So now it's your turn. Don't think too much about it. Just wet your watercolor paints, grab your thumbnail sketch and have a go. And if it goes wrong, just tear that page off the block and have another go. And try and forget about pressure and perfection and just enjoy the painting process and the fact that if it goes wrong, it's not a problem. Sometimes you can paint all the right elements and it still doesn't quite feel right. Here's an example. If this happens and you're not happy with how it turned out, don't take it personally. Don't start beating yourself up. This is about exploring, having fun, and learning. Just grab a new page and try again. These two pages I've painted numerous times before I felt they were right. Don't forget to post some of your work in progress in the project gallery as you go along. I'd love to see how you're getting on. And if you have any questions, feel free to use the class discussion section and I'll do my best to answer them. In the next video, I'll show you how to use Photoshop to check your pattern, your composition and the repeat. I'll see you there.